God open your ears to hear. Because there is a way out of this circumstance you think is overwhelming and insurmountable. There is a way. There is a way. Tell your neighbor there is a way. There is a way. Tell your neighbor there is a way. There is a way prostitute can mother the Lord. Hebrews 11:31 says, by faith, the harlot, by faith, she was a prostitute. But there was a way. There is a way. The slingshot of David found its precision in the forehead of Goliath. You might think, how would this little small thing, tiny youth, defeat a giant? There is a way. There is a way the widow of Zarephath was provided for. Yes, they had run out of food. There was no food on earth. And the prophet was fed with a lust. But there was still a way for food never to run out of that woman's house. There is a way. There is a way that was available for the Shunammite woman to have her child alive, even when she was pronounced dead in 2 Kings chapter 4. There is a way. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego can stand in the fire. The Bible tells us the people who threw them in the fire got burnt. But there is a way to stand in the fiery furnace, as Daniel chapter 3 tells us, without being burned. There is a way to be thrown in the den of lions, as Daniel was, and the lions look at you like you're their young brother. There is a way by which a woman who has not seen a man can become pregnant. Oh, there is a way by which Esther, a little girl, can save a whole nation. There is a way by which 5,000 people can eat with 2 fish and 5 loaves of bread. There is, add your story, come on. Everybody's thronging at Jesus. They're rubbing themselves on him, trying to connect to him to see whether they can receive the anointing. But there is a way. There is a way. A woman with a bleeding issue goes in. There is a way. They're all, but there is a way. There is a way she finds it. Are you hearing me? And just at the edge of it, she gets into just a little hem like that. Touches it. Are you hearing me? Just touches it. And Jesus stands and says, somebody touched me. I don't know their name. They didn't come for the meeting. They're not among those who follow me. But somebody has touched me, for virtue has gone out of me. There is a way of getting virtue without being... Let me tell you something. That's why I tell people, sometimes I lay hands. Like today, I felt led, I'm going to lay hands. But I tell people, and I'm not boasting, this is the truth. If you mature in understanding on how the anointing works, some of you will learn that I don't even need to lay hand on you. Because there are people we have laid hands on and they've not received the blessing. And there are people we have simply released. Because you see, laying hands does not need to be physical. No. No. Okay, let me lay hands. I'm laying hands. Am I walking to them? No, but I'm laying hands. You understand? It doesn't need to be physical, but sometimes I can allow for physical, but I'm laying hands, right? There are people who can receive and there are people who cannot receive. Because you cannot receive, don't think that by me touching you, it means that you can receive. No. The woman with the issue of blood understood this mystery, that there is a way I can receive that hand without it physically touching me. Not everybody can do this because it's an education of the spirit. But when you educate your spirit, you realize that it is possible. That's how it works. There is a way. Now I want to finish. Because you don't see the way, it does not mean there is no way. There is a way. Tell your neighbor, there is a way. Yes, there is a way to come out of debt. There is a way to reconcile your marriage. There is a way to heal your child. There is a way to reverse that disease. There is a way. God will make that way. Believe it, that there is a way. I know when you look at the income you have, you and your wife, it's just not possible that you can buy a good property and build $1 billion house, because you look at your finances, you look at your income, but there is a way. There is a way. I know you look at yourself and say, I don't see how my children can earn the best education. I would have wanted my children to be in a very nice school, perhaps an international school. But there is a way. There is a single mother here looking at me, and you think, how will my children go to school? Their father is not here. There is a way. There is a man who has lost a job and you don't have an income, and you're asking yourself, how will I sustain my house? There is a way. Somebody told us that there is no land in Kampala. You cannot get property in Kampala. There was a way. There are people who have a problem with us. Recently, when I told you that we're going to build a church of $55 million, some people they got a problem with me because they don't know the way. Some of them say that we are thieves because they don't know the way. Some of them say, no, we are lying. Some of them say, no, we have manipulated this. We've taken advantage. We are taking advantage of you. All of you are foolish people that we just take advantage of, and they're the wise ones on the internet. Listen, because you don't know the way, it does not mean there is no. I told you the story of how we got this property. There was a way. There was a way. That's how we are working and functioning in different parts of the world. There is a way. Tell your neighbor, there is a way. You might not see it, but there is a way. There is a way to come out of that circumstance. There is a way to change your story. There is a way to change your father's family. There is a way to change your marriage. There is a way. There is a way. There is a way. There is a way.